Hi guys, my name is Mina. I'm the host of the Knitting Expat Podcast. I'm here really quickly with you guys today, just as a little bonus video to announce that my Pinwheel Scrap Blanket is now released. It is now out, or it will be out by the time this video goes up, and that is a pattern for this blanket, which is a modular blanket. Clearly this isn't a whole blanket, but it's a modular blanket, and you knit each block one at a time and then you seam them together. So this is what one block will look like when you come to finish it. So the pattern includes everything you need, from how many stitches to cast on, how to knit. It works as one triangle. I'm trying to figure out where the start was on this one. Okay, so you start out, you cast on for one triangle, you knit one triangle going this way, then you cut the yarn, start your new yarn, and you start going this way, and then this triangle. So it works around in a circle. So you get back to the end here, and then you seam this edge together. Now I've got a couple of options for how to seam this edge together, and a video tutorial for the method that I use. And then there's also a selvage edge written into the pattern, which is great if you want to use the crochet chain or crochet seaming method that I have again and written in the pattern and a video tutorial for. But if you decide that you want to go with mattress stitch or an alternative seaming method, then the selvage edge may not create the cleanest option for seaming. So you can just do straight garter stitch. And again, I have notes on how to do that and what to change in the pattern. There are again notes in the pattern on how to adapt to knit this in different weights of yarn. So the pattern is written for fingering weight, and the amounts of yarn used and size, finished size of each block is given for fingering weight and for the needle size that I used. But there are notes on how to adapt that and change it. It is such an adaptable pattern. You can easily take two blocks and seam them together and make a cushion. You can cast on more stitches or fewer stitches to get different size finished blocks. Obviously you can experiment a bit to see what you would prefer and how, what sort of size you'd like. But these blocks, with the way they're written in the pattern, they block out to about 25 centimeters square, so about 10 inches along each edge, which I think is a pretty decent size for a blanket block. Yeah, and on that note, myself and Shannon of the Soxcetera podcast have decided to co-host a blanket knit along for the summer. So it's going to start on the 1st of July and run through to the end of August. I'm not going to cover too many details now because Shannon and I actually got together a couple of days ago. Metaphorically speaking, we live like half a world away from each other. I'm in Bahrain and she's in Vancouver, so literally as far polar opposite sides of the world. But we got together over Skype. It was her night and it was my morning, and we had a quick little Skype chat and to run through the details of the knit along and how it's going to work. And yeah, and I will update you guys more in the podcast and on future episodes with regard to prizes and other things like that. So I just want to put this quick video together just to announce that the pattern is released and that there's a knit along going on, kind of to celebrate the start of the launch of this pattern, but also for anyone knitting whatever blankets. You don't have to knit just this blanket. But I also wanted to say really quickly that there is a coupon code. There's going to be a coupon code for this pattern until the end of this month. So until the end of the day on the 30th of June, so midnight on the 30th of June, you can get this pattern for, what is it now? For $1. You can get this pattern for $1 if you use the code Pinwheel, all in capitals, and it should be up on the screen. You can get the pattern for $1 until the end of the month, and then it'll go up to full price. And yeah, and so all that information is going to be in the description box. And yeah, so thank you so much, and I will pass over to past me and Shannon talking about the KAL. Okay, now we're recording.
Okay, oh, it's so exciting.
Yay! So, I guess we didn't really talk about how to do this, but the introduction.
Hi, everybody!
Hello! Okay, so I'm Mina. I'm from the Knitting Expat Podcast, and so I'm doing this in case people are watching on your channel. You can introduce yourself on mine. And yeah, so Shannon and I are planning on co-hosting a blanket KAL, and we thought it'd be really fun to do the rules and everything together. So
yeah,
Shannon.
And I'm Shannon, and I'm from Soxcetera. For all of Mina's viewers, hello.
So, like I said, I have just been. Probably should have grabbed this earlier. I will have, by the time this video comes out, I think, will have just released my Pinwheel Blanket pattern.
Which you've been showing. Oh, it's so beautiful.
I love it. So it's at the moment it's currently being test knit, but in about 3 days, 3 days from when we're recording this, which will be Monday, I think, Monday or Tuesday, I'll have the pattern out, hopefully. And so sort of in celebration of having that pattern coming out, and just in general because it's the summer, we thought we'd co-host a summer blanket knit along, crochet along, make along, whatever along.
Yeah, since we both love blankets and minis.
Yeah, and so I think we've decided, we came up with the name Summer Blanket Blitz for the hashtag, and I'll try and remember to pop that up on the screen for people. And so go ahead.
I was just going to say, so one thing that Mina told me just before we started recording was that I had mentioned on my podcast, because I just did a blanket Blitz KAL. I just finished one, and so it was pretty chill, and people could just post to Instagram or the chatter thread on my Ravelry group. And so Instagram told me I had a certain amount of people who had posted pictures. But then when I went to do the draws, I ran out of people. So I thought, oh, well, Instagram completely miscounted and lied to me. And Mina was like, no, Instagram didn't lie to you. What is happening is probably a lot of people who posted have locked private accounts. And if you're not following them, you would not be able to see their entries. So I guess if you have a private account, what you're going to want to do is make sure you definitely post to one of the Ravelry groups, or both. Can they post to both?
Yeah, why not? Because we'll both be drawing for prizes from our own threads as well. So I guess people can enter into both groups, so they'll get double the chance of winning prizes.
Why not?
Yay.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
So Shannon said we're going to keep this relatively relaxed and really easygoing, no stress, kind of fuss-free knit along. There's only going to be chatter threads. There'll be one in each of our groups, and like Shannon mentioned, you can enter into both, and we will both be having prizes. We haven't fully come up with what those prizes are going to be yet, but they'll involve, well, from my end, I'll probably put together a few mini skein sets, and I'll see what else I can gather up. But we'll both draw prizes from our threads, and probably from Instagram as well, from the hashtag. But I guess as and when we get prizes sorted, we'll announce those as well on our respective podcasts. But yeah, so I think we thought we'd do the knit along running from the 1st of July till the 31st of August. Nice and long over the summer months. We don't expect anyone to finish a blanket in that amount of time, which is probably why there's only chatter threads. And yeah, like I said, it was kind of, for me, it was to celebrate the release of the Pinwheel blanket, and also just to encourage people to work on their blankets this summer. And the good thing about the Pinwheel blanket is that it is travel friendly, because you can knit one block, you knit the blocks individually and then you seam them together. And so one block is only about that big. So it's easy to just take a few minis with you and in a small project bag and just take it on the go, which is really which was the big reason why I wanted to do this and why I came up with the pattern, because I really wanted to have something I could work on my blanket while I was away, because my current blanket is huge and there's no way this is not gonna travel very well as it is, because it's the summer. I find it quite hard to knit with that on my lap. So I knit with it at my desk, with the blanket on the desk and my lap underneath the desk. So I stay nice and cool and the blanket's not suffocating me, but I can still knit on it. But it doesn't really make for a great travel project. So
I was thinking I was either going to need to take a break from my blanket this summer or start a new one that was just tiny. So this is perfect. And so the one on yours, does each triangle take 5 to 10 grams?
It takes less than 5 grams, because I've been using 5 gram minis each one of these, I believe they take about 3 to 4 grams. If you do the
Okay.
size and with the needle size and gauge that I got, I don't think I actually have my gauge in the pattern because gauge really doesn't matter with these things, but they're knit over 30 squares, 30 stitches, 30 squares, 30 stitches on 3mm needles. So it's quite a loose and drapey fabric, which I like for a blanket, but you may want to go up or down in needle size depending on your own gauge and how tight you knit. And that will obviously impact the amount of yarn you need. And you can also increase or decrease the number of stitches depending on what size blocks you want. So 30 stitches on 3mm needles gives roughly a 25 centimeter square. So that's roughly 10 inches square for each block, which I think is a good size. It's a good size block.
Great.
And like I said, I usually have a good amount of yarn left over from the 5 gram mini. So it's definitely good for the smaller scraps as well as bigger ones. That's fine. The bigger ones, you can get more than one triangle out of them if you wanted to.
Yeah.
They are, and it's really fun. It's actually, once you've knit a couple of triangles, the rest of the block, it's really, really easily memorizable and it doesn't really take much effort at all. And they're really quick. Each triangle takes like 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really quick.
That is really nice.
Once you get into it and you've got the rhythm down, I can do a whole block in like one evening. It's really quite quick as well. But it's great if you're commuting as well. If you've only got like 20 minutes, half an hour when you commute and you get a couple of triangles out or one triangle or whatever. So it's pretty good.
So obviously you could seam them together as you go, or you could seam them all at the end.
Yeah.
What's your preference?
I prefer seaming them together using a crochet hook. Again, this is all explained in the pattern. There's that's how I've done the seam on this side. He's just trying to climb onto my lap. I've written in a sort of selvage edge. I don't know how well or if you can see that at all. There's a selvage edge onto the sides, which actually makes seaming with a crochet hook really easy, because it's kind of like when you have a selvage edge on your mitre square blanket, it makes it really easy to pick up those stitches. So it's the same sort of concept with the crochet seaming. And I have a video on my YouTube channel for the crochet seaming, which at the moment is private just because the pattern's being tested, but once the pattern goes live, I'll make those videos public as well. And I also have a video on how to, I'm calling it a modified 3-needle bind off, but it's how to seam the block together, like the actual block, to make it a solid block when you're finished. Because when you knit around, you start at one side and you knit it around. When you get to the end, you have this one edge of this triangle that needs to be seamed together from the bind off edge to the cast on edge. So you can either just bind off and then seam it together however you'd like, mattress stitch or whatever, or you can do what I call a modified 3-needle bind off, and there's written instructions and a video for that as well, for anyone who prefers the visual on how to do that. But again, with the crochet seaming, like I said, the selvage edge makes the crochet seaming really simple. It makes for a very sloppy mattress stitch though. So if you want to do a mattress stitch, I would say skip the selvage and just do a garter edge, so just knit all the stitches. And again, there's a note in the pattern on how to do that. I've tried to make the pattern as thorough as possible, and there's a lot of writing in there, but it's all just to help you on how you can do it. You can adapt the pattern, you can knit it out of different weights of yarn, you can do so much with this, you can do whatever you want. You could just make
what we've come to love and expect from a Mina Phillip pattern. Very thorough and so accessible.
It's just one of those things. Since I started writing patterns, my whole aim, I guess, was to make them as accessible as possible to any level knitter. I've always wanted them to be super simple and easy to follow and as adaptable as possible as well. A lot of my shawl patterns are written in such a way that you can knit them out of any amount of yarn and out of whatever sort of combinations you want. The repeats and things, I've always tried to make them really adaptable to suit any kind of knitter, and also make them as easy and simple to follow as possible as well. I remember when I started out knitting, and I hated the kinds of patterns that just assumed you knew things. And it's really easy to go down, once you've been knitting for a while, it's really easy to assume that other people know what you consider to be basic. And it's not necessarily true. Not everyone necessarily knows the same things. And that's fine. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I always try to keep that in mind, that not everyone will necessarily know how to do this particular bind off or what this particular stitch means. And so I always try to be as thorough as I can. But yeah.
I was talking to Chanel from the Piper Nell podcast today, and she's knitting, or I think she actually just finished your across the pond shawl, and she just was saying one thing that she loves so much about your patterns is how versatile they are. Like you can do as many repeats as you want. You can, like she just said, I just love that so much because it can become my project without me feeling like I've strayed too much from the original pattern. So
that's the other thing as well, because not everyone will necessarily have the exact amount of yardage that you've called for. They might want to use a particular skein that has more or less yardage, and they want to, they don't want to have a lot of leftovers. I mean, one of the issues I have with some patterns is they call for 2 skeins of yarn or 3 skeins of yarn, but you have like half the yarn left over at the end of it, and you're just like, what do I do with that? That's fair enough. There's a lot of things you could do with that, but one of the best things about having such an adaptable pattern is that you can go as long as you have yarn and use up every last scrap of it and not have a ton left over at the end if you don't want to.
Yeah, that's great.
We went off on a bit of a tangent.
That's okay. It's great.
That's fine.
Knitting is all about tangents, I think.
Exactly. I always, and that's why I have such thorough show notes before I start filming, because otherwise I will forget so many things from going off on tangents. But but no, it's good. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm super looking forward to this knit along, actually. I'm so excited that you asked me to do it with you, because I was thinking that I probably would I'm just going to ignore my blanket this summer. And then when you asked, I'm like, you're right. I don't want to ignore my blanket this summer.
Don't ignore it. It deserves love.
Because I do love it. I love it so much. So, yeah. But I think I will probably start something new, or I think like now that I see your pattern again, every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I think I want to do that. So, yeah. I'm excited.
Yay. I'm actually really hoping that my big blanket will be finished before we start. To be honest, it will be finished. I have four blocks left to go to square it off, and then I think I'm going to call it quits on that blanket, just because it's big enough. Like I had a nap with it the other day, and it was plenty big, so it's good.
Then it's official.
It's not. If it's good enough for a nap, then it's good. Because to be honest, it's never going to be a blanket I use on our bed, because we never need a blanket like this on a woolen blanket. But I'm not planning on finishing it off with like a border. I was thinking about that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it open. That way I can always come back and make it bigger later if I want to. I think, because if we move somewhere colder or something and I may want to use it on our bed, then I can always add to it and make it bigger. But for now, I think it's a good size to use on the sofa, and that's kind of really all I wanted it for to begin with. So I'm hoping to have that finished so I can focus on the pinwheel blanket for the knit along. It'll be fun. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I've only co-hosted a knit along a couple of times. The other one that I could think of is the Budding Bluebells, which is currently running and finishes in a couple of days. But yeah, so I haven't really done many co-hosted knit alongs. So this is really fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I guess we will sign off. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you so much. I'll be back again in a couple of days with a regular podcast. So thanks for stopping by and watching this little clip, and I hope you will join us in the blanket KAL. All right. Take care. Bye.